I see tons of reviews, but are you telling me there is not one single solitary Tomb Mold album ranking on YouTube? That has to change today. Oh, hi. My name's Jorge. I grew up in the 80s and loved getting into trouble. I've been a Christian most all my life. I'm a huge fan of cats, and I've been a music fan my entire life, of all genres. Recently, I've discovered I really enjoy extreme metal of all types, and I want to invite you to journey with me on my discovery of death metal. What is up, folks? Welcome back to A Christian Collects Death Metal. It's your pal Jorge here, back at you with another video. Thanks for stopping by. So yeah, today we will be ranking the entire Tomb Mold discography, 5 albums that I am including. You might think, wait, aren't there just 4? Well, we'll get to that, but yeah, 5 albums. You know, Tomb Mold has quickly rose to the ranks of death metal darlings, along with the likes of Blood Incantation, and you know, for good reason. Harbingers of OSDM, something that people have really latched onto. There's something about that old school sound, right? And even in the modern day, for bands to adopt that style, right? And obviously add their own touches, nuance, and flair to it. Man, it really does something, not just for me, but for a lot of people. You know, like I said, they're basically death metal darlings at this point, alongside the likes of Blood Incantation. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and get into this tier ranking. So, 5 albums total. We have the 4 official full lengths, and I'm including their compilation album, which basically is a full length. It is the 2 earliest EPs together side by side. You have the Bottomless Perdition on one side, followed up by the Molting on the other. And the reason I'm doing this, normally I wouldn't include EPs, and I'm not including, they have, Aperture of Body, obviously we're not going to include with a full length, or the, I can't remember the other one. But this one, they have decided to take their 2 earliest EPs and put them together on an album. I'm not sure the reason why they did that, but they did. I'm grateful for it. Maybe because there were just a lack of, tapes or the EPs, original EPs at the time. They probably sold out. People wanted this, and they're like, you know what, let's put them on an album. I'm not really sure. Maybe they thought both EPs worked really good together, which is what I think. They really fit, and every time I listen to this, I listen to it in its entirety. I do that with every album, but especially with this one, the material fits. I mean, it works perfectly. If you weren't even to know that these were 2 separate EPs, you would, I'm sitting here holding this stand, you probably wouldn't even know that they were 2 separate EPs. You would just think it's just one regular, normal album. So, anyway, we're going to include that. Tomb Mold started out in 2015. They was originally with Blood Harvest. I think this is a label out of Sweden. Correct me if I'm wrong. And they had some, some demos and EPs, along with a full length before being signed with, big label there, $20 spin. I guess it could be argued they're not huge, but hey, they're not small anymore. They themselves quickly rose to the ranks of just, in my mind, major label status, alongside with Century Media, what have you, Metal Blade, Nuclear Blast, in my mind. So we have 4 members, technically 3. I always think of the 3. We'll talk about the newest member. So you have Derek Vela on bass and guitars. I think he mainly does guitar work now. Max Klebanoff, if I'm mispronouncing these names, I'm sorry. No offense intended. You have Max on the vocals and drums. It's a special talent to be able to drum and also do vocals. We see this with Eli Windler, Spectral Voice. It's a special kind of person. Definitely don't see a lot of it. I know I don't. Then we have Pace and Power on guitars. and the newest member as of 23. I'm guessing it brought him on for Enduring Spirit, Kevin Sia, and he is on the bass. So I think relieving Derek of his bass duty so he could focus more on the guitars. Somebody let me know in the comments if I'm wrong there. So we're going to start out with the Bottomless Perdition and the Molting compilation. They came out with this in 2017. I think that actually Primordial Malignity came out first. These are both in 2017 releases, both on Blood Harvest, by the way. I think this one came first, and then they had this, put together and printed. But we're going to do this one first because the material on here predates that of this, right? So 2015, right, with those EPs. And this is an album that is just absolutely insane. It's probably among my favorite, if not my favorite. So as far as the tier ranking, well, let's talk about it first. You have on the one side Bottomless Perdition, and there are some times in here where it feels kind of like death thrash, super thrashy. Maybe it's just my virgin ears not quite comprehending or understanding. But man, some of the soloing, especially on Bottomless Perdition, this side right here, really reminds me of I don't know, man, like early Megadeth, early Slayer. But then they have that heaviness, that death metal heaviness, especially that old school style that really just does something for me, especially when it comes to this album. This has to be S tier without question. I think my favorite side is actually the Molting. It's just so menacing. It feels like you're wandering through a graveyard at night, and just the heaviness in the air, fog rolling in. It's super, super haunting. And the material on this early stuff, I think, more than what they would later go to do with the cosmological horror, the Lovecraftian stuff. Their early material stayed on the spooky side of things, if you know what I'm saying, and I really am drawn to that. So yeah, this is definitely S tier without question. Then we have the Big Daddy right here, Primordial Malignity. This is so good. Still kind of staying around that spooky type stuff, but yeah, we're starting to get away with that, especially in tracks like Clockwise Metamorphosis. This was printed and brought out in 2017. It was originally recorded in 2016, right? There on Blood Harvest, their final, I think, offering with them before going to $20 spin. And, oh man, dude, I love everything about this. I picked this up at a shop in Canada, just online. Those first two albums, Bottomless Perdition, the one we just talked about, and this one, super difficult to find. If you're looking for a copy, I know where one is right now. They might have a couple. They are used copies. I'll leave a link. It is through Emissions Record Shop, Toronto, Canada. Website is what I go through. I'll leave a link if you're interested. Super hard to get a hold of, and you could see why. This material is awesome. In the same vein, kinda, as the original two EPs that we just talked about, but you could start to see their sound really start to develop into what Tomb Mold would really become known as, basically. A bit more refined, I think, starting to get away from the more thrashier side of things, and starting to, it's still old school, but man, you could really start to see their flair, especially in Bereavement of Flesh, which might be my favorite song on the album. We have Twisted Trail, Vernal Grace, the outro, Primordial Malignity, title track, Coincidence of Opposites. This is just an absolutely haunting album. This guy on the vocals is one of my... You know what? For me, vocals can ruin an album, right? If they don't fit with the material, and I could name some examples, but I don't want to be a douchebag. But the way he gets real down low like he does, Mr. Klebanoff Max, we'll just call him Max. That is my style. The Chris Barnes, I'm not even a Cannibal Corpse fan for real, but I love that Chris Barnes style where you could get real down low and just that type of sound that comes out of people. Wow, is insane. Super low guttural vocals, just what I like when it comes to death metal. So, without question, Primordial Malignity has to go in S tier, without question. 2018, we have the mother load, man. This is really, I think, what shot them into the stratosphere. And yeah, they definitely went for the Lovecraftian type stuff, themes in this one. That's okay. I'm a fan of that subject matter as well. But yeah, 2018 Manor of Infinite Forms signed on some $20 spin, and they consistently putting out album every single year. That 2017 they put out 2 albums. So, wait, did I get that wrong? Yeah, no, that's right. So before this, they had the 2 in 2017. This year, 2018, they come out with Manor. This is, I think, what most people look to when they think of Tomb Mold, at least in my opinion. That opening track, man, that riff. There's a few things when I ask myself, what makes a record good? What makes a song good? It's 2 things, right? We'll talk about just the album as a whole. 1, memorable riffs, and I'm using that as like an umbrella term, and I'm just talking about like memorable things in the music. The riffs, the arrangements, the way it's composed, it has to be memorable, right? I have to be able to, put this record away and, weeks down the road, I still know what is happening in Abyss Walker. I know the drums going on in Final Struggle of Selves. So you got really good riffs and good material. It all has to fit together. And, you always, people point to Rain and Blood by Slayer. That's a riff that just burnt into your head. So many Metallica songs, Megadeth songs, tons of death metal. We can even get into black metal, but yeah, those memorable riffs and just the way the music is arranged, that opening track is just absolutely classic and iconic. If someone was first getting into Tomb Mold, they needed a suggestion, an entry point, this one would definitely be what I would suggest. Manor of Infinite Forms, it has to go into S tier without question. The final entry going into S tier. It is such a good album. 2019's Planetary Clairvoyance. This is a good one. It is a good one, but there's one thing that holds it back, and you probably already know what I'm going to say, and that is the production. This is one of the prettiest variants that I own, by the way. The material on the album is stellar. It is just, top shelf, S-tier material. However, the production causes it to suffer, and I think Fantano talked about that. I think that he reviewed this, and he had the same sentiment. If they would have just stuck with the same production, I'm not sure who mixed and mastered this, if they would have stuck with the same production style that they did with Manor, or even before that, with those albums with Blood Harvest, man, that would have done so much justice for this album. Though I'm not a big fan of the production, the mix, or however you want to say it, I do love the material. Heat Death. You have songs that I can't even hardly pronounce. Cerulean Salvation. That's what I was trying to think of earlier, I think. Phosphorine Ultimate. Infinite Resurrection. Really, really cool. Heat Death, that's probably one of my favorite closers in death metal albums, maybe of all time. But man, the production is so muddy, so murky, and I get that you're going for this OSDM style, right? And so there are times when, the production, it can make or break an album. It definitely adds to the aesthetic for sure, but I think they just went a little too far on this album. It's hard to pick apart, at least for me, right? My virgin ears, greenhorn here. A lot of it seems to just blend together. It's just like you're trudging through a swampy marsh, right? And, even the band themselves acknowledge that, hey, the production on this, in an interview with the Enduring Spirit, the production just had a huge overhaul, huge upgrade, and even they acknowledged that, hey, at least with Enduring Spirit, you can, it's not so muddy and murky, like Planetary Clairvoyance. So even they themselves acknowledge that, hey, maybe we went a little too far on this one. That being said, it's still a ton of fun to listen to. I don't think it gets the credit it deserves. I listen to it not all the time, but I do return to it time and time again. It is great material, like I said, but because of the production, I'm going to throw it down into, I think, B tier. I think B tier, and maybe, I don't know, maybe C. Pro. Yeah, I think B tier. And so a 4-year gap, and then out of nowhere with no promotion, no nothing, out of the clear blue, this was dropped on us in 2023. The Enduring Spirit, and wow, talk about an album, man! This is so good. It's quite a bit different from anything that they've done so far. But that's okay. At this point in the game, you expect a band to evolve and progress, and a lot of them kind of stay in their lane, kind of stay in that same vein that they started out with. I'm thinking like, Fulci, or I can name some others. And then you have other bands that want to try new things. They evolve, they grow, develop as a band, and they just trying different things. You also see that with Blood Incantation as well. But man, this is an amazing album. The production is far and above that of Planetary Clairvoyance. Starting out with The Perfect Memory, great opener to a track. And this is like full on cosmological horror type stuff, in my opinion. Angelic Fabrications, Will of Whispers, which is just an absolutely haunting, super spooky track. Fate's Tangled Thread. I think also Flesh of Armor on the second side. That is another one of my favorites. That one, what they used to say, goes hard in the paint. That's a tough one right there. Servants of Possibility. Was such a fan of this when it came out. I still am to this day. I return to it very frequently. Such a cool album. And it's okay that bands, want to try new things. And I think with Tomb Mold, all this stuff, all what they're doing works. It's on the proggy side of things. The songs, the arrangements, they're all going in different directions. I have a giant Tomb Mold poster here. And that's okay. And like I said, you kind of expect them to do that. Super impressed by this album. I'm going to put this in A tier just because I'm such a fan of those early albums. I love this one. I love it a lot. It's so good. I like the direction they're going. It's super interesting. But for me, I really, as much as I love this, I have to put it in the A tier because I'm such a fan of Bottomless Perdition, Manor, Primordial Malignity. Love what they're doing here. Can't wait to see what they do next. But yeah, Enduring Spirit goes in A tier. So there you have it, guys. That's my official tier ranking of the Tomb Mold discography. Let me know in the comments what you think. Do you agree? Do you disagree? How would you rank these albums? Iconic, darling band. We all love Tomb Mold. I don't know anybody who really doesn't like them. Almost every review I've seen, just people clamor over this band, and I'm right there with them. So, big fan here. Let me know in the comments what you think. Let me know exactly how you feel. I want to thank you again for stopping by. I appreciate you. Jorge, a Christian who collects death metal, signing out. Be blessed.